So I'm so excited to start up these new go lives. Um, I've had a long standing interest in ghosts and monsters as far back as when I was little, and I would listen to my parents talk to my grandparents about various ghost stories. Back where I grew up, which was the Appalachian Mountains, which if you even go onto YouTube, the Appalachian region is rich when it comes to myths and folklore. Um, for the purpose of these go lives that I'll be doing once a week on Mondays at 7 p.m., um, it will be covering creatures from all over the world, from different cultures, and I think it will be cool because tonight I'll be discussing skinwalkers. And it was one of those things where it's pretty short, to the point, interesting narrative in the book, which I will be using Freaky Folklore, terrifying tales of the most or of the world's most elusive monsters and enigmatic cryptids. Now that is a mouthful. But I got this hardcover book from Amazon. I got a good deal on it. And I'm thinking, if I'm going to read about cryptids, maybe there's other people like me who have an interest. And so this book is by Carman Carrion. And she has a podcast entitled Darkness Prevails. So if you're wanting to take a deep dive into cryptids, I would say check the podcast out. It's certainly something I'll be checking out too, because I have not yet listened to her podcast, but I plan on doing so. So, tonight, like I had alluded to earlier today with my post and just now, we are going to talk about skinwalkers. And from what I've determined, these are based in Navajo um, mythology. Um, from the YouTube videos that I've seen today, one of which was a Native American from the Navajo culture. He attests that he has witnessed these skinwalkers. They are predominantly on Navajo lands, um, and that a lot of times the folklore went that these were medicine people who essentially were trying to get to people in a quick manner to take care of them. And so they would have to do a lot of work in order to obtain the ability to shapeshift into wolves, you name it, to get to someone to be able to quickly help them. However, because of the amount of work it takes to do such shifting, based on the Navajo mythology, which I'll share the video I'm alluding to so that you can watch it. He said that some people in their culture wanted to take a very quick way of obtaining this ability. So they basically had an evil entity that basically is like, if you want the ability to shapeshift and have the strength and speed, then in exchange, I need this. Which in the video, he alluded to the evil entity asking the person to sacrifice someone immediate to them and loved, which would be a spouse, a child, someone of that nature. And yeah, it gets rather dark. The Navajo people are not freely sharing this information, which we'll go into this here shortly as I read the narrative. They're very protective of this information um, because they're more or less private and they don't know who to trust. So I'm just going to go ahead and start reading. So it's described as a sinister, shape shifting Navajo legend. Freaky facts. Location: southwestern lands of the modern day United States. The first sighting is unknown. Classification: witch slash shapeshifter slash legend. Personality, deceptive, malevolent, envious, and manipulative. The Skinwalker is primarily an ancient Dene, more commonly known as Navajo, legend, though neighboring tribes such as the Hopi, Apache, and Pueblo all have their own ideas about what a skinwalker might be. Skinwalkers are believed to be witches or immoral medicine men or women who have attained the highest priestly level but have chosen to use their power to cause injury and suffering to other people. The Navajo referred to this witch as Ye Moldoshi, which translates to with it, he or she goes on all fours. There are many kinds of Navajo witches, but this one is the most unpredictable and dangerous. Outside of Navajo society, the legend of the Skinwalker is poorly understood, largely because locals are reluctant to talk about it with outsiders. Every tribe is cautious to discuss Skinwalker mythology with outsiders or to divulge it to anyone they do not trust. According to Navajo folklore, the Skinwalker is described as completely nude, save for a wolf or coyote hide. They are referred to as a mutant form of the relevant animal by some Navajo people. Perhaps the skin is only a mask. Skinwalkers are characterized as swift, agile, and hard to catch. Although there have been some attempts to shoot or kill one, these typically fail. Analogous to the werewolf, the Skinwalker is a shapeshifter who can alternate between human and animal forms, generally at night. A Skinwalker can take on the appearance of any animal, such as a wolf, coyote, fox, bear, deer, or owl. Navajo mythology claims that skinwalkers have the ability to read people's thoughts. They also have the capacity to produce whatever human or animal noise they want. In order to entice victims from the security of their homes, a skinwalker may impersonate a family member or imitate a baby's cry. A skinwalker cannot move naturally while taking on an animal shape, making them easily distinguishable from real animals by both humans and other animals. For some reason, even a skilled skinwalker is unable to achieve the ideal animal gait or produce proportionally accurate sized animal tracks. Only by learning a skinwalker's true human identity can he or she be defeated. This is possible if the skinwalker is located and brought back to his or her home, or, in some tales, if a skinwalker sustains an injury and the identical wound is later discovered on a human. According to legend, an individual of Navajo descent would have to proclaim the person's name, "You are a skinwalker," first pronouncing the name in order to identify the person concealed behind the skinwalker. Then, 3 days after, that person would either become ill or die as a result of the injustice they had done. Although killing a skinwalker in human form is very hard, there are techniques to defend yourself. One way to kill a skinwalker is said to Is said to be to shoot it with a bullet coated with white ash. And I confirmed that knowledge base based on some of the YouTube videos I watched today, that they do utilize white ash, put it on their physical selves and around their home. to protect from skinwalkers. There's also accounts that it's at night. They'll knock on doors. They will climb up on top of homes and walk on the roof. They, like the narrative said, they'll imitate a family member's voice. And there's a lot of cries that they do as well, which generally will make a dog, if there's a dog in the area, it will make that dog bark as well, because they pick up on this evil presence. And the one video that I will share that I referenced previously from the gentleman saying that he's from the Navajo region, he said that basically on their reservation, that it's when their relatives have passed from their extended family, they'll go and clean the house out and they'll find evidence that that person was a skinwalker. Some of the things he mentioned in his video is these skinwalkers will dig up dead bodies. They will acquire the bone from the dead bodies, make knives and sharpened daggers used to harm people and poison them. The bone from the deceased human body can be ground up and then it can be blown onto somebody to where if someone's exposed to that, the legend goes that someone will die from that. So I found the video that I'm alluding to very interesting, and again, I will share it. It's definitely a must watch if you're interested in learning more about skinwalkers. So now I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to tell you guys a story based on what we've learned about skinwalkers. So now we're going to set the setting. While camping deep in the Chippewa National Forest, Minnesota, 4 young friends encounter this legend known by the Navajo. But will any of them live to tell the tale? I am safe up here, Sky murmured to herself. The teenage girl sat flat against the floor of the rotting wooden watchtower. The edges of the platform beneath her were not far, and she dreaded the thought of inching closer to peer over. Jeremy had gone out to retrieve kindling for the campfire, but he never came back. They found little more than his left sneaker and a bloody human tooth. Garrett and Caitlin had gone to look for him. Garrett had come back, struggling to describe having seen Caitlin getting dragged away by her scalp. Sky had then gone with Garrett, attempting to escape the forest and find their way back to the truck. Landmarks began to repeat. There was no way, Sky wondered, that this forest contained the same moss-covered wooden sign with the same writing misspelled in an identical way every 100 yards. Even so, they had indeed passed such a sign over a dozen times. When Sky broke down and fell to her knees, Garrett yelled at her to get up. When she did not respond to him, he left her. It took her a couple of hours to try to stand up on her trembling legs. By then, she could not see or hear Garrett in any direction. She had become lost, meandering off the path, hoping for a change in scenery and perhaps finally finding a way out. She stumbled upon this decrepit watchtower. Quickly, she climbed it, thinking the sooner she was up, the less likely that thing would see where she had gone. Surely it hadn't seen her climb up here, she thought, whatever that thing might be. Sky! A familiar voice called up from somewhere below. It sounded deep, gravelly, and winded. Garrett? Sky could hardly whisper. Even with her friend nearby, she quivered at the thought of giving away her position. Clearing her throat, she tried again. keeping a wide berth from the edges. Garrett? Sky, thank God you're okay. The pitch of the voice heightened, and frantic footsteps followed. Garrett sounded close to the base of the watchtower. I I thought you left me. Sky's eyes watered. Her stomach tightened. I'm sorry, Sky. I shouldn't have left you. I was scared. She heard a thunk, thunk, as he began climbing the steps of the watchtower. I'm coming up. For some reason, as the footsteps got closer, Sky's heart began to beat faster against her chest. And then, finally, the footsteps stopped just before the hinge door in the floor. Suddenly, the door flew open with such force that some of the old wood splintered and flew off, scattering around the floor. Sky should have screamed, but she couldn't. She was paralyzed with fear. Garrett was all that she could manage to utter before witnessing the top of her friend's head slowly ascend from the hole in the floor. His hair was a disheveled mess, and his face was coated in a mixture of sweat and mud. Wide-eyed and with his mouth agape, Garrett's appearance sent a wave of revulsion through Sky, causing her to vomit. She realized in horror that the only thing attached to Garrett's head was a large hand with long, hairy, clawed fingertips gripping it by the scalp. Now that sounds scary, you know. So very good. That's the story again about this guy. And I've seen a lot of TikTok videos that come up too, where a lot of them could be because of the algorithm. It's in the Appalachian region. But people state that they're seeing the Skinwalker in different areas, and they do attribute it to be like a demonic entity. So to wrap things up, I am going to draw a card from Tarot of the Unexplained, which is by a gentleman named Davezilla. And anybody who's a fan of aliens, UFOs, mythological type creatures, it is a different deck. It's not a traditional deck. It's certainly one I wouldn't recommend to someone starting out. But it's matchy-matchy with my theme, and I couldn't think of a better deck to draw a card from. So, to wrap up our very first installment of our Cryptid of the Day. Oh, almost. I only want one card, not two. Let's see what we get. What is, my question, the main takeaway? And here we have the skeptic of saucers. And the saucers, let me go ahead because this is a new deck for me and I'm getting used to the different suits. Let me remind myself so I say the right thing. The skeptic of saucers would belong to pentacles. So this, believe it or not, in this deck, the skeptics are the same as the king of pentacles, right? And many of us who are familiar with tarot are familiar with what the king of pentacles means. I will go ahead and read Davezilla's meaning here as I hold the card up here. So upright, we have financial stability, abundance, and security. And the phenomena, hearing a pig-like squealing as you walk to your car in the parking lot alone at night. A hailstorm with hail the size of hen's eggs. The skeptic of saucers is a likable fellow, a local businessman, maybe your neighbor. Unlike some other skeptics who have brusque and rude attitudes, the skeptic of saucers is funny and laid back. He just doesn't believe in anything he hasn't seen with his own two eyes. And aliens? That's a bridge too far for him. Even if a giant craft were to hover directly overhead, as it does in this card, if he saw it, he'd say it was a drone or a hoax. Or maybe he'd chalk it up to having had a few drinks earlier and he'd simply misidentified a plane or a helicopter. The skeptic of saucers is associated with the element of earth, which represents stability, security, and material possessions. The skeptic in this card is great with money. Every endeavor he attempts is successful and turns out well. And it says an affirmation, which it says you can meditate on, would be, are you owning your wealth or is your wealth owning you? Which, you guys, if you've known me for very long, I mean, I'm cool with the book, but I'm way more of an intuitive reader. But I would say, based on what we're learning tonight about skinwalkers, and this is a skeptic, and like Davezilla said, even if a saucer was above this dude's head, he's going to think it's something else, right? Because our logic comes into play. I would simply close out the story of the skinwalker tonight with, really, unless we have data to rule anything out of existing, the potential or probability of it existing is out there. And if anything, science only tells us what we know so far. There's still a lot of unknowns out there, right? Because life is complex and diverse. So I think it's cool that we're looking at various cryptids to keep in mind that other people have seen these things, so much so that they're writing books about them and making videos. So I would say it's always great to be open to new knowledge and experiences because you never know what's going to go bump in the night. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you next week.